Hey, welcome to another episode of Ask a Brother Podcast. I'm your host, Jeff St. James. Yo, number one, shout out, shout out to the 27,696 subscribers that we've gained this year alone since we've launched this channel. The way that this channel is growing is amazing. I appreciate all of you genuinely. And shout out, of course, a special shout out to the members that keeps this channel flowing and moving as we try to get more and more equipment, get more and more stuff built up as we kind of try to expand what it is that we're doing here. And this is again is just a place for us to be able to enjoy different perspectives, different viewpoints, and really learn from the guests that I'm kind of bringing on. And I best believe when I get to introducing this guest, y'all going to get ready for it. So for starters, if you're currently in the chat, make sure that you like the chat, make sure that you share it or send it to a couple friends. I highly recommend both to the guys and to the ladies as well. Share it with your girlfriends, share it with your homeboys. And the reason why I'm saying this is because for a lot of people who have so many opinions about the red pill and the manosphere and everything, I would view this person as probably one of the early architects for what it is, what it truly is. And I think he's an authority figure with it as well. So, real quick, remember that we have men's groups now that started the last 2 weeks. That's on Tuesdays at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, 6 p.m. Central. Well, not men's groups, store merchandise. As you see, eventually more and more people that are going to be coming in are actually going to be probably wearing some of this stuff soon. So stay tuned for that. So make sure y'all kind of check out the store merchandise, and best believe each month we're actually going to be adding some new stuff and potentially removing some stuff. So make sure you get the things that you actually like for sure. So again, make sure that you guys send this stuff out and share it with your friends, your family, and people that you think this may be a very interesting topic for. I'm very excited about what this is potentially going to turn into because I know I'm way ahead of schedule being able to get this guest. So, two last quick announcements. Number one, make sure you hit that super chat button. If you see it, it's the dollar sign. If you want to donate $2, $3, or $4, whatever you can, whenever you see these lives or original episode content pieces, definitely would appreciate a donation. If you are not comfortable with giving directly through YouTube, you can click on the Cash App or PayPal links in our channel bio. And hold on, because people already starting. Let's see who we got. Andre C. Hatchet. Shout out to you, good brother, for the gift of 199. The takeover has begun. Listen, I guess I'm a part of this space now, and I'm happy to be somebody that's hopefully contributing in a positive way. Siege D, how can Rollo be red pill if he's married? I guess y'all be saying the same thing about me too. So man, I'm excited, man, for sure. So, real quick, we are going to hear from our sponsor for today, which is Dew Sable City Botanical Farms, a natural alternative to boost your testosterone and vitality when performing your civic duty in the bedroom, gentlemen. Make sure you check them out. Feel free to use the Ask a Brother 10 for your coupon of 10% off for your purchase, for off your next purchase. So let's check out a video from them, and then we're going to jump right into why it is you all are here. So special shout out again to our sponsor, Dew Sable City Botanical Farms. Make sure you guys check them out. The link is in my channel bio. And I do believe we often are going to have some of those links all throughout tonight's chat. So without further ado, I know that y'all not here just for me, and I'm not going to be talking to myself. Obviously, I have a special guest, and I want to make sure I bring this man in with the honor that he deserves. So for starters, he's a pillar. and he is an anchor in the red pill manosphere community. The author of the #1 seller of The Rational Male, he is credited by tens of thousands of men of not only helping them to form an understanding of masculinity, but also relationships in the modern world. And in this area, there have been few men that have been more influential to multiple generations of both boys and men simultaneously than our next guest. Please help me extend a warm welcome to our surprise guest, Rollo Tomassi.
Surprise guest.
Listen, man.
What am I going to do after that intro? Oh, man. Oh, did I lose him?
Back. I'm coming back. Yeah, I'm good. For people who, may not be familiar with you, I know that my intro wasn't even enough, but why don't you tell a little bit about your kind of background and kind of what even got you into the red pill manosphere space for my audience and people who may never heard of you before?
What's funny is anytime everybody asks me that question, it's usually like, it's like, who hurt you? what was the catalyst for how did you become the way you are?
Mm-hmm.
No, I started actually in the forum days back in 2002 on a forum which is still around. It's called the SoSuave.net, SOSUAVE.net. And I was a moderator at that forum from probably 2001, 2002, all the way through. Well, when I started my blog, and then I think I stopped right around 2013 or 2014 because I was just doing too much stuff. But that's kind of like the golden years for the red pill as far as I'm concerned, because it was like the forum days, and there was no social media, there was no YouTube per se, certainly no live streaming at that time. And it was just guys getting together and like comparing notes, from all over the world. Or like for the first time in like history, like guys could get together in like a forum and say, this is what's going on where I am right now. And I just developed kind of a fascination with the seduction community at the time because I was studying psychology in college at the time. And I noticed a lot of parallels between what was like, say, Mystery Method and some of the guys at RSD and, alt-fast seduction and Mystery Method, or Venusian Arts, that's what it was. And I just actually got to meet Mystery this year, too, for the first time.
Nice.
I've been doing this for like 23 years. It's like the first time I ever met Mystery face-to-face. I had a pretty good interview with him. But I did that for almost 10 or 12 years. And then the blog was sort of an extension of my conversations that I had over the course of like 10 or 12 years in the forums. Then I produced the first book about 2 years later in 2013. And I did that because everybody says you're just a blogger and nobody will take you seriously until you're
I'm learning that right now.
Like, am I really an author? And so I produced the first book, and I thought that would be like the only book I would ever write. And it just sort of became the Bible of the manosphere and the Bible of the red pill. So then that developed into, what's now 6 books. So so then I became sort of the author, Rollo Tomassi. And then 2017, I started doing live events and speaking and stuff. And I launched my YouTube channel 2017, 2018 with my now deceased partner, Pat Campbell, who was a terrestrial radio show host. And he was really kind of a mentor for me to sort of do what I do now, which is like, do podcasts, I do Access Vegas, I do live events, I do that kind of stuff. So it really helped me become sort of like I guess a public figure, for lack of a better term.
Listen, man, you definitely in the public eye. You've been for quite a while, for 20 plus years now. And I guess I wanted to prick your brain a little bit about like the red pill manosphere space in terms of both what it's turned into and often what it's mischaracterized versus what you see it truly is.
One of the things that I think it gets sort of thrown around too easily is just this term red pill, because now it's like whatever you want it to be. And it's to me anyways, it's always been the praxeology of intersexual dynamics, meaning what is women's nature? What's men's nature? What's the confluence between those two, right? That's the intersexual dynamics part of it. Like, how do those natures sort of interact and interweave with one another? And there's so much more to it than just getting your dick wet, right? It's it's about politics, it's about religion, it's about sociology, it's about archaeology, it's about brain chemistry, it's about endocrinology, your hormones, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's about the physical aspects, the psychological aspects, the historical aspects, like I said, sociological. So it's really difficult for me to give anybody an elevator pitch of sort of what the red pill is, because it's not a bumper sticker, which unfortunately I think you were asking me, how has things been mischaracterized?
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's what people really want it to be. They want to be able to have it be a slogan of some sort, and it's really not. So to me, it's always been the praxeology of intersexual dynamics, meaning that it's the sort of loose science of why we behave the way that we do. And it's what the function is behind all of that. It's like the latent purpose of like what these behaviors are and why do we do those things, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And so a lot of that it's kind of dovetailed very nicely into evolutionary psychology, evolutionary biology. And so I studied quite a bit of that. Again, I don't have a degree in any of these topics. So it's like, other than psychology, but I am not an endocrinologist, right? I'm not a brain surgeon either or anything like that, but I have a keen interest in those kinds of things. I don't have a political science degree either, but anything is fair game as long as it sort of crosses over into intersexual dynamics. And so, like right now, I think a lot of people think the red pill is just Andrew Tate and Pearl Davis, right?
Yep.
Or else they think it's politics, right? They think it's what's going on with Israel. They think it's what's going on with Trump. They think it's what's going on with name your political faction, right? And so a lot of people want to turn the red pill into sort of like, oh, it's just you used to believe one thing and now you believe another thing. And I'm like, well, the root of it really was from the old seduction communities. And when I go back and I do screen captures of like my earliest usage of the term red pill from 2004,
wow,
critics aren't even born yet. So so when I bring it up and it's like I know what I'm talking about. I've been here I feel like Elrond, like 1,000 years ago again. I was there, right? And I've been part of this, what we now call the manosphere. It wasn't even called the manosphere back then. I've been part of this for 23 years now. And so like when people tell me like, what about Kevin Samuels? What about Andrew Tate? What about Jordan Peterson? I was here before all those guys. So like even when I'm talking with Myron and Fresh, who I consider like some of my best friends in the world, right? It's like I remember when Myron was part of Rule Zero in 2020, right? Nobody remembers those. I can point you to where the videos are. But that was, those are sort of like the golden years of the red pill. But I see the red pill as strictly about intersexual dynamics and how that crosses over into other sort of subcategories is sort of anybody's game. But it's not politics. It's not. I think the biggest problem that we have right now with the mischaracterization of it is everybody thinks that it's supposed to be about politics. Or supposed to be about right wing this or I remember in 2016 it was the alt-right and everybody was using the term red pill, right? Candace used to, her old Twitter handle used to be red pill black.
It's true.
It was just whatever the kids were talking about, right? So let's just appropriate that term and use that term. And so that's kind of like what's going on right now. Like I love it when like I have to read these or see these articles. Like we were Mike Sartain, my partner on Access Vegas, we were just sort of interviewed by CBS News for a documentary that they did, and they wanted to say that Theo Vaughn and Joe Rogan and Jordan Peterson are red pill. I'm like, these guys hate the red pill. What are you talking about?
Not
but
close.
They just don't. It's what I call confident ignorance. They're not stupid. They're just ignorant of the the whole history of what we now call the manosphere and the red pill. So, and I think a lot of that has to do with people sort of commercializing it and wanting to turn it into sort of a personality brand, the brand of me, right? Like right now, even Tate would say he's not red pill. He hates the red pill, right? And until it becomes useful again, and then he'll be red pill again. It just depends on whoever's, if what's in vogue and what's popular at that time. And So I think there needs to be a distinction made between like the people who are about it and the people who are
Mhm.
using it sort of as a moniker for whatever, their logo for their band or for their, their brand.
With the current what we deem as the manosphere, which is all these men who are speaking on a lot of these topics, would you say that the majority right now that are kind of visible or getting the biggest audiences are kind of about like what you're talking about? Or do you think that there's more so like grifting and other ego
Uh,
trips?
I think that a lot of it has to do with what I call an ecosystem, right? So a lot of people used to be about it, right? A lot of people I can remember back in 2016, 2017, like I said, when hashtag MGTOW was trending, right?
Yeah.
Then everybody who wanted to get in on, here, create a YouTube channel and get rich, right? And so you can go with money, muscles, and game. Are you a fitness influencer? Are you an entrepreneur, sort of success guru guy, or do you want to start talking about game and the red pill and stuff? And that's usually was the easiest one for people to get into, because if you were fat,
Mhm.
no one was going to take you seriously as a fitness influencer, and if you were broke, no one was going to take you seriously as an entrepreneur. So the easier way was just to simply, say, okay, well, I'll go with dating and relationships and everything. That's something everybody knows something about. What
Mhm.
they do is they would just go and look for hashtags that were trending on YouTube or on Twitter or whatever, and manosphere, MGTOW,
Yep.
doom pill, black pill, red pill, blue pill, purple pill, whatever pill.
Mhm.
And so people would just use that as sort of, part of their list of hashtags and, ats for the algorithm to pick up on. And then suddenly they became an influencer, right?
Mhm.
In that
Mhm.
space, a lot of people wanted to do, hell, I helped a lot of people get their, their brand off the
I
ground back.
mean, that's kind of what you're doing right now, but that's neither here nor there.
Well, but I don't have a problem with that. See, because the thing is like I helped Jedediah Bila get her brand off the ground. Well, I mean, Fresh and Fit. Me and Hotep Jesus were the first two guests on Fresh and Fit.
Fresh and
And
fit,
then
yeah.
I can remember back in 2021 and 2022, there wasn't a month that I wasn't in Miami doing at least one show with those guys.
Mhm.
And I remember the day they hit 100,000, and I was still at 85,000, and I was actually there
Wow.
on the show when I hit 100,000. And yeah, it was kind of cool because
Crazy.
we were both coming up together, right? It was,
Uh-huh.
and then of course they just blew up, exploded. So like August of
Insane.
21, they're
Mhm.
they're turning $150,000 every month just in super chats. So
Yeah. Yeah.
things to I'm happy for him, because as far as I'm concerned, Myron's one of the best. I wish he would get back to talking more about like red pill as far as like intersexual dynamics is concerned.
Mhm.
But I still think he's one of the best representatives of the red pill there's ever been. There's
Mhm.
a few other people I would say too. I don't think I'm like the be all end all of everything, but it doesn't end and begin with me. I mean, it certainly began with me. So I don't know. But I think people, when they see like Andrew Tate or they see some of these people who are just sort of come ups right now, like Andrew Tate wasn't even a household name beyond 2021, 2022.
Mhm.
So that's what everybody wants to sort of say, he's the face. Everybody wants a figurehead, like they want a
Yeah.
leader, right? They want to
Seems like it.
yeah, they want somebody who's the leader of the army, right? They want
Mhm.
somebody and to his credit, Tate stepped in, and for a while there I thought it was going to be Myron, and then I thought it was going to be Kevin Samuels, and Kevin Samuels passed away, and then
Mhm.
Tate stepped into that vacuum. And now I'm not so sure that he's really about it anymore, or even wants to be about it anymore. And so
Mhm.
as far as the message getting out, I'm good with that. Like I've always said that the red pill is like open source. Like I think people should take the code and build upon that code and improve it and add features to it and say, hey, have you thought about this and everything? But usually what people do is they take the code and they go, I wrote the code. This is me. I did all.
Mhm.
It's like, no, there's 100 other people that came before you that wrote that code. Or else maybe it's just their followers think that they did, because I think people think that the red pill started 2 years ago. It's like, no, it's more
Mhm.
like 22 years ago. So, and then trying to explain that to people go, well, you're old, you don't know what you're talking about. I'm like, no, that's exactly why I know what I'm talking.
You know what? Related to that, what's the for the audience, people who are young or even people who are older who are just now being exposed to the stuff the last few years? How would you separate all these different color pills? Obviously, it came right. This is an original reference from the Matrix, but
Mhm.
like beyond that, like what's the difference in your mind between what a blue pill perspective or man is versus black pill versus
Mhm.
red pill? Like for people who might be confused, like what do all of these pills mean?
Well, okay, so when I use the term red pill, and I use this, and I've back through my archives on social, I've never deviated from. I'm the most consistent voice in the manosphere about this stuff. But like whenever we use the term blue pill or red pill, I mean, we're referring to the Matrix,
Mhm.
and in fact, we used to call it, you're still stuck in the Matrix kind of thing. Back in the forum days. And so we kind of made this distinction for guys who were sort of uneducated, who didn't know about female nature, didn't know about male nature for that matter either, didn't know how sort of the game was rigged against them, or maybe even for them, depending on how you view it. Because that's
Mhm.
why I always keep saying that the red pill is a praxeology. People want to turn it into a belief set. They want to turn it into a movement. Like I said, they need a leader. They want to turn it into a cult, a movement, a belief, a philosophy. And it's none of those.
Mhm.
It's simply a collection of data, and how you choose to use that data and how you choose to take that data and interpret it and then put it into practice. That's when you get the black pill. That's when you get the pickup artists. That's when you get
Mhm.
uh,
Mhm.
the white pill. Christians will come up to me and say, or even Muslims will come up to me and say, well, Rollo, I believe in, everything you said is 100% true, but I'm a Christian or I'm a Muslim and I don't believe in premarital sex. What do I do? Well, you read my book on religion, which is why I wrote the book, just specifically
Mhm.
for those guys. But it's fascinating to me to see how people will take it and put it into practice per their own convictions. So if you are of a mindset where you're kind of like depressive and you're kind of like gloom and doom and you're despondent and nihilistic and everything, you're going to take that information that the red pill presents you, and you're probably going to use that as in a practice that is, well, just forget about it. We're all doomed. My face is messed up and I'm fat and I'll never be able to,
Yeah.
it accentuates or it exacerbates or I don't know, exaggerates whatever you've already sort of interpreted about yourself, right? So this is
Mhm.
now that you've been cut away from your old way of thinking, your blue pill way of thinking, and you're in this sort of new red pill paradigm. What are you going to do with the information? So when I talk about blue pill and red pill, I always talk about blue pill conditioning and red pill awareness. I always use
Mhm.
those terms when I refer to the red pill and to the blue pill.
I've
Uh,
noticed that in in several of your writings. I didn't realize that where it's like the conditioning blue pill is obviously what society or westernized countries have been kind of forcing on all of us to a degree, but particularly the men.
mhm.
Whereas the red pill is the awakening, the awareness of this conditioning and what it's been kind of setting men up for failure in terms of reactions and interactions with women.
And not all guys are ready for that information, right? I
Mhm.
mean, I can't help it how they're going to take it, right? Because everybody, oh, well, Rollo, you're creating incels. No, I'm not. They were going to be incels whether I came along or not, whether I gave them that information or not. They're just taking that information. They're saying, here's the data. Here's what I know. Here's my new awareness. This is what I think should be the best practice, right? So if you look at, like, say, guys like Matt Walsh or Michael Knowles or some of these guys who
Mhm.
are like sort of the traditional conservative kind of guys,
Yeah.
they pick and pull aspects out of the data sets and they conveniently ignore the stuff that they don't like, that doesn't align with their religion or their convictions or whatever, and they sort of plug it into the manosphere or the red pill. They plug it into what there is and say, see, we were right all along. It's like, well, what about all this other stuff? Well,
Mhm.
never
Mhm.
mind that, right? What they're doing is they're taking that data and they're using it in the context of what they think ought to be best practices. So the black pill is a practice. MGTOW is a practice. Here's what
Mhm.
just forget it. Just like, men, we should just go our own way. I mean, that's a verb, for crying out loud.
Literally, yeah.
Literally, we're going to take this information. We think that the best move is not to play the game, right? I don't happen to share that, but like, then if you look at like black pill doomers, if you look at incels, if you look at MGTOW, if you look at MRAs, if you look at trad pill, white pill, whatever they're calling it now, all they're doing is taking the information that the red pill has presented to them over the course of 20 plus years, and they're saying, we've interpreted the data. This is what we have, and this is what we think the best practices are for. Awesome, go for it. I don't necessarily share those convictions with you. I don't subscribe to the just let it all burn school of thought. I'm if anything, I think it's encouraging, because you have accurate information now, and you can leverage that way differently than when you were still in your blue pill conditioned doldrums, right? You didn't know any better. So I almost can't blame guys who like got divorced before they knew all this stuff, or they got like rolled by some girl, or they got, a girl pregnant because they didn't know any better, or whatever. Like, they had all these beliefs that they had. And I think those guys are really tough to reach. Well, it's even when you do reach them, it's really tough. But it gets to the point where like they're what we call awakened while married. There's guys who are like, really marriage.
Women are pissed about it.
They go, oh man, I wish I had known this before, right? So what's their best practice? How are they going to take that data and incorporate it into their lives so that they can get their wife to have sex with them again? What are they going to do, right? It's all about practice versus the theory versus the data, right? And that's the difference. So that's the difference between, it's like Andrew Tate. Andrew Tate preaches a practice. He's not the red pill. He just takes the data that's convenient for his brand, plugs it into his brand, and that's his practice. That's his. I'm a man, right? That's a movement. That definitely a movement. MGTOW is a movement. Hell, men going their own way is a movement. MRAs, men's rights activists, right? That's a movement. So they're just taking the data that we've cultivated over the course of, like I said, 22 years, and they're just using it for what they think is best practice.
Yeah, man, that makes sense. And guys have really been kind of coming at me when I finally gave my opinions about the black pill. And my view is very similar to the other extreme, different reasons for how they arrived there. But like the women who 4B and women who are talking about they want to swear off of men, and men are the worst, and there's nothing inherently good with men. And they're like demonizing the whole sex to a degree where they see no reason to interact with men at all. That's functionally what it sounds like on the other end, where men are ending up in a place and space where they don't want to interact with women in any way, shape, or form if they can help it. And it's like, I don't know if this defeatist, nihilistic perspective, I guess I'm not naive to the reality of how horrible the dating market is, especially in the modern realm. My view is that typically when men start to make personal improvements, usually one of the benefits is that women and money and friendships will start to kind of accumulate. And you still got to be intentional. But I've always felt like when you just made general lifestyle improvements, you're like fun to be around. Like more and more people are drawn to you or attracted to you. And and of course, with a little practice and putting yourself out there, naturally life starts to not look as bad. What do you think about that?
So I look at, like, when we talk about in the red pill, in my space and wherever I'm, I do a program called Reignite, and we focus on the three, like sort of the trifecta of what affects men the most. And that's money, muscles, and game, or health, wealth, and relationships. If you like that better, that sounds nicer to you. And then of course, the one distinction I make is that the sum total of all three of those ends up composing what your frame is. Like, what's the world, what's the life that you build for yourself that other people want to enter into or don't want to enter into, right? And so most guys, when they start reading the red pill information, like the data and stuff, and they start becoming more aware, they realize that they're usually deficient in one or more of those three, right? So it's money, muscles, and game. So it's, physique, affluence and status, money, that area, or it's game. They just lack social skills. Really, game. Like when we talk about pickup artists or whatever, PUA or whatever, people get a bad taste in their mouth when you say stuff like that. But really, all it is teaching guys social skills that they didn't pick up along the way, that they should have picked up, right? So that they would know. And I can't really blame like the last half of the millennials and all of Gen Z, because they grew up behind tablets, right? They didn't have the live in person, face to face, so they're not picking up interpersonal skills. And so in steps myself or Aaron Clary or Mike Sartain or whoever else. And we're just there to sort of help these guys along in that direction. So it's usually one of those three, and sometimes it's a combination of the both. But what I think a lot of people miss out on is that they're not independent of each other. So just as what you just said a moment ago, is they tend to be more synergistic. And I hate to use that term, but in this case, it kind of applies. So if you if you're like a fat ass and you get into the gym, right, you drop a lot of body fat, you get yourself down to 12% body fat, and you put on 8-10 pounds of muscle, right? Yep. How are people going to treat you? How are people are you going to notice a behavioral change in the way that people react to you, how the way women want to engage with you? I think so. And so how is that going to affect your social skills? How is that? Or maybe you're going to get a better job because people want to hire good looking people, you know? So one change in one of those areas affects the other two, right? Let's just say, for sake of argument, like you're working and suddenly you make $1 million in crypto or whatever it is. How is that going to, and I know because I deal with a lot of crypto guys who go from like zero to hero. They go from being this broke coder to having $10 million in their bank account because and so what they're doing is they're carrying over and exacerbating the problems that they had before when they were broke, but now they're the same guy with $10 million. How is that going to, now this is in a negative sense, right? How is that going to affect your muscle and game and everything else? Most people, when they are deficient in two, they gross out in the one. So you've got, if a guy has, he's fat and he doesn't have any social skills, he's going to say it doesn't matter anyways, because women only want money. So I'm just going to make a lot of money. Right. And so how does that affect their lifestyle? How does that affect their frame? Everything is based on transactions at that point. So what do? And then how does that affect their mindset? Well, I make a lot of money. Women respond to me because I have a lot of money. Ergo, women must only want money. And then they wonder why the hot chick that they want to get with is still sleeping with the broke musician that she can't get enough of, right?
Because something more,
because he's hot, right? Or because or he's got something that clearly it's not money. So and so there's that, they're trying to balance, sort of square a circle, a square a circle, whatever. And there just happen to be deficient in two other areas. And so if you would take the time to go and like improve yourself in one of those areas or two of those areas, you'll find that the other one benefits as a result of that. And then, as I said before, all of those, the sum total of money, muscles, and game ends up becoming what your frame is. So your frame is sort of like the world that you have that you want other people to enter into, or maybe like frame doesn't just apply to like women in intersexual relationships. It's also about your business relationships. It's also about your friendships. It's also about your family too. So, and then people think that frame is something like that, that pickup artists or like red pill guys just pulled out of our asses. It's like, no, that's actually a psychological and sociological term is what that is. And there's a very clear, concrete definition for what frame is. And when you put it into the aspects of money, muscles, and game, it's the sum total of those will create your frame. So what does your frame look like? Your frame is actually the net result of all of those, the quality of those three.
Unc be streaming. He been listen, y'all need to follow after Unc be streaming. If you haven't donated today, make sure y'all donate your $2 or $3 because I'm gonna make sure to show every single super chat that's put out there. Unc be streaming. He been cooking us as we've been talking this whole time. The moment we talked about the black pill, he said in 2025 the juice not worth the squeeze. The majority are overweight. Other men's kids, double-digit bodies. How hard men are supposed to pursue trash options.
Don't pursue trash options.
Yeah, what do you think about that?
Like, you gotta fish where the fish are, man. I get this all the time. People go, well, they're all like that. How, like, that's really a super overgeneralization. Well, where do you live? Where are you at? What do you do? Like, what the other thing that gets me is that because we get this all the time, like when on Access Vegas, people be like, oh, these girls are whores, or they're all plastic. I'm like, okay,
why are you eating plastic?
Get some normal girls. They say the same thing to Myron and Fresh too, right? and I'm like, okay, send me a picture of a normal girl. I never get a picture. I don't know why. But I do understand where that comes from, because it's not just like, I think when all you're seeing is like our girls from Las Vegas here, which I think we have the most top shelf chicks here, but like there's some very good looking girls in Miami. And it's, if you're sort of that mindset that there's that nothing period is good enough, but what that's your practice. Your
That's
practice.
all you're gonna see.
I'm just gonna. Everybody should walk away. You're just basically preaching your practice, right? Everybody should just walk away. Okay. Well, what would make the squeeze worth the juice? What would how would you value the, like, how do I upgrade the juice so it would be actually worth the squeeze? What does that look like? And nobody ever wants to talk about that, because as I said before, it's all about bumper stickers. It's always about, just walk away. And it's very satisfying to see. I see all these, I don't know if they have them so much anymore, but I can remember when, before YouTube cracked down on them, there was all these AI sort of faceless YouTube channels. And it was always the ones that like provoked the most, the indignation of guys were always the ones that like just catapulted from like 0 subscribers to like 200,000 subscribers in like less than 2 months. And it's usually like the thumbnails of like some Greek god statue guy walking away from walking away. And it was like, yeah. And it's, you don't understand that that's just, it's AI that's just, playing to your psychological, your mindset is basically what it is. I think a lot of guys, if they took the time to sort of increase their value in some way, whether that's, usually it's the gym. Okay.
Yeah. How you dress.
Well,
how you dress, for sure.
Style, I think that's a good starting point. And the reason why I say that is because 75% of the US population is overweight. Okay. So I'm pretty comfortable in saying you probably need to go to the gym, statistically speaking. And then what is it, like 35-40% are like obese. So
yeah.
That would be a good place to start. And then it's like, well, I wouldn't be worth it. Why would I want to go and do something like that? Because it's like, you're just looking for reasons not to improve yourself. You're looking for reasons not to play the game. So is it that the game's not worth playing, or is it that you just don't want to play the game? Usually it's because they don't want to play the game. And fine, don't play the game, but don't tell everybody they shouldn't be playing the game either, because a lot of people are I think there's a lot more to be optimistic about. I think I'm not like, Aaron Clare is going to kill me for saying this, but I'm not of the opinion that we should just sort of let it burn, right? I'm not cut from the enjoy the decline cloth, right? Because eventually at the bottom of the decline, things are pretty fucked up.
yeah, literally. So thinking about that, especially related to like the actual relationship, actually just in general, whether guys are married, dating, or even single, after 23, I think you said 23 years of kind of operating in this space, what do you honestly believe is like the most common issues that you would see affecting men right now?
Well, usually it's guys trying to rebuild themselves or rebuild their lives. That's actually why I did Reignite my group and my book, right? It's to help guys sort of like, they need something actionable. They need some kind of utility. It's one thing for me to give guys data. And this is the hardest part of like being sort of in my space, because the red pill kind of, as far as I'm concerned, the red pill and myself kind of exist in this really kind of weird in between realm between like, trad cons and like, pickup artists, or, somewhere, or incels and, positivity guys. Right. So we're kind of in between all of this, because I'm very famous for saying this. It's like, I'll comfort the afflicted and afflict the comfortable. I'll punch left and I'll punch right if I see that you need a swift kick in the ass, right? And it's not out of love, but a lot of the times when I get guys who will come to me, they come to the space. Remember, we don't advertise. There's no billboards on the freeway saying, "Hey, read the Rational Male." There's no. It's very hard to advertise a book like and make it worthwhile. I have to. Twitter's actually my only. Well, Twitter and Instagram are really my only mediums for advertising the book, and I have to be careful about spending money, because usually the money I spend cuts into my royalties. So it has to be word of mouth. It has to be popular enough that people really love it, so that they will pass it on. But usually there's a few different problems that guys come into the space for. First of all, they want to get laid, or they want to have. That's where it starts. I understand. It's the physical side of they want to get laid, or they want to date, or they want physical intimacy, or they want just some girl to touch them on the arm.
Yeah,
They
great.
want just sort of like, Kino, right? They want like the milk of human kindness or something like that, because they just don't. It's so, affection is so ultra rare right now that that's, you want to know why OnlyFans is such a seductive, immersive experience for guys, and that they're willing to spend small fortunes on, is because it simulates what they're missing, which is just connection, human connection, right?
Wow.
And so people say, oh, all you're doing, Rollo, is you're just teaching guys to go get laid and get their dicks wet and everything like that. I'm like, well, sometimes that's where it starts, but then once you get into the red pill, and once you start like learning stuff, and once you start becoming aware, and you understand what your strengths are, and you understand what your weaknesses are, usually it's guys who have other problems besides just getting laid. And so it's like, okay, well, how can we help you with your style? How can we help you with your mindset? How can we help you with your mental point of origin, right? How can we help you with your burden of performance? How can I help you with your frame, right? There's like so many different aspects. So usually it's that guys want to do that. Or if they're married, it's like, how do I get my wife to have sex with me again? I love your work, Rollo. I've been awakened while married. I don't want to divorce my wife. And not because it's cheaper to keep her, but because I'm really in love with her. It's just that she hasn't touched me or been affectionate with me in 10 years. So either I am going to leave this situation, or we're staying together for the kids, right? Either I'm leaving and divorcing this woman who I don't want to divorce, because I am just starving for, connection and intimacy. And so that's the only option. Usually it's women who are like the ones who are initiating the divorce in the first place. But it's usually after a certain amount of time where there hasn't been any real like sexual connection, or sort of like even personal, intimate connect. And I mean that in the sort of psychological sense. And so what they want is from me, or the red pill, is they want answers. They go looking for answers. It's like I said, we don't advertise, hey, come here, we're going to solve all your problems. No, I have a problem. I need to go online and find out how to fix it. So like I've got, handwritten notes from guys, and hell, I've got handwritten notes from mothers who have thanked me for saving their sons' lives.
Wow.
Because they were in really bad places. I've had a guy cry in my arms before, telling me like, I had a date that I was going to commit carry, right? I was going to self-delete, right? And I canceled that because I was looking for answers, and I discovered your book, and now my kids still have a father as a result of your book, right? There's nothing more satisfying to me to hear that. You want to know what they're looking for, what their problems are. It's usually because they're hopeless. They're hopeless in their marriages. They're hopeless in the fact that they're going to ever be able to find any perfect, girl, some virgin bride, from the Amish Dutch country somewhere. Well, let's talk about that. Why do you think that? Right? I have a bachelor's degree in behavioral psychology, right? I don't have a doctorate, I've been doing this for so long that I can give you a good analysis of all of this. But usually it's how do I get a girlfriend? How do I get my girlfriend back? How do I get my wife back? How do I
get them to sleep with
sex with me again?
Yeah.
Those are usually the starting points for a lot of it, or else they're sort of, like I said, cut from the incel cloth, meaning that they're just despondent and nihilistic, and they're what I call they're never able to sort of cross the abyss. So between the red pill and the blue pill is what I call the abyss, and you have to go through like the 5 stages, really 6 stages, but 5 stages of unplugging from your old blue pill, from the matrix, right? From unplugging from your old way of thinking. And usually I compared that with the 5 stages of grief, right? So when someone dies, or you're facing your own mortality, you go through, denial, anger, acceptance, hopefully you get to acceptance. But there's a point where, like, I think a lot of people criticize the red pill and say, those guys are so angry. It's red pill rage and everything. It's like, they're not angry at women. They're angry at themselves for not having seen it sooner.
Yes. For not understanding women sooner.
The abyss is when guys get stuck in the abyss. They're stuck in the anger phase and they can't get out of it. And so therefore it's like, oh, they're all whores, or juice isn't worth the squeeze. Everybody just go their own. You can live a good life without sex, or just jerk off and buy a dog and whatever. It's like, to me, that's a practice. If that works for you, then please, there's nothing I'm going to tell you, but like, I don't see that as like sort of a satisfying way of life, but that's just me.
One of the things that I've been starting to realize and come across, and it starts with this red pill epiphany awakening moment. A lot of guys for the first time are coming to the realization at different points over the spectrum of development and adulthood that like they realize that most people that only want to, your value is what you can produce. And that can be both an empowering thing for some people because it's like, oh, that means it's within my control. But then others are feeling like, whoa, like my own mother or my wife, or if I don't produce or I don't give or have something to offer, they're going to very quickly toss me to the side. And that's a really jarring, I think, wake up call for like a lot of men who's dedicated 10, 20 plus years of their life towards women, their family, their children. And then one day it's just one random Father's Day or it's one random birthday where it just kind of hits them like the length of what they're doing for everybody else versus what they're getting in return. Like I'm looking at these parallels between just, let's say, Mother's Day and Father's Day alone. Can you talk about like the way in which these holidays are viewed and treated in our culture?
Sure.
And like maybe why that explains why the red pill is necessary?
Before I get to Mother's Day and Father's Day, because the reason why there's such a difference, a distinction between those two is because men have and this is in my 6th book as well, but men have a burden of performance, and you will always have that till the day you die. That's why when guys say, well, I'm just going to leave the game. No, you're not, because and it's not just about women. It's about how other men are going to see you as a result of what you've done and what you've accomplished in your life.
Yeah.
So when guys get to the point, like they have a midlife crisis, for lack of a better term. I don't believe there is such a thing as a midlife crisis. There's a midlife epiphany, as you were saying before. People, you step back and you go, and you look at all the work you've done for the last 40 years, and you go, this sucks. Where's the reciprocation? When do I get to take money out of the bank instead of putting money back into the bank for equity value, whatever you want to, use it. But and so there's this sort of, I'm not getting anything out of this, and all I'm doing is just giving and delivering. And the reason why I think really the reason most guys don't really think of anyways is like, well, what brought you to that in the first place? What belief set did you sort of adopt or subscribe to that made you think that the more you suffered, the more people should care, right? The more you suffer, the more you sacrifice, the more money in the bank you have. It's what I call relational equity. And there's no such thing as relational relationship equity. A lot of people think that they have like sort of this insurance policy against like their wife cheating on them or them being in a marriage that's divorce proof because they go to church on Sundays, they believe a certain set of things, or they read to their kids before bedtime, or they do homework with their son, or they go to piano recital, or they do all the things that a good dad should do. And then they're like, at one point they're like, well, why is my wife still leaving me, right? Why am I still miserable? Why am I still in this state right now? And the reason of that is because they never questioned how they came to that belief. It's like it's epistemology. Yeah, it's like, how did you come to the belief that you have right now, right? And they never really sort of backtrack and go, well, this is what I was taught when I was a kid, or I have values, or this is what my parents believed, and this is what I believe. It's like, okay, well, that as a result of all of that, that's where you're at in life right now as a result. One of the things I've always kind of had a problem with recently, really, but like in the past, is like, if you I think it was Tristan Tate who said something like simping is an unequal exchange of value, right? Man, and you're producing more resources than you can expend, and a woman is taking more resources than she is actually creating in that relationship. However you define that, it could be money, it could be affection, it could be emotional connection, however you define that, because value is sort of contextual. Like everybody thinks of it as money, right? But like there's of sort of appreciating value. And if you think about this, there is no earthly way that a woman will ever be able to reciprocate that kind of value. So men, no matter, I don't care how alpha you are, I don't care if you're Andrew Tate, I don't care if you're Tristan Tate, you're a simp. I'm a simp. You're a simp. Everybody, every man on planet
Basically.
Earth is a simp because we produce more value as a surplus so that we can get with a woman. So a woman will be in part of our lives because that's frame, man. We want a woman to enter into the world that we have. So we have to build that world first, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I think right now we've kind of always known this, but it's become more stark and we're more aware of it now because we have the internet, because we have social media. I think all of the stuff that we like complain about, oh, can you believe this? We're just outraged all the time. It's like, dude, it's always been like this. You're just hyper aware of it because you can't escape while you're scrolling every single morning. And I'm not saying give that up because I'm not of the, I don't necessarily buy into the idea of just, take a break from social media. No, it's still there. It's still all the same truths are there. You're just like sticking your head in the sand. You can't shake the feeling that you're sticking your head in the sand.
Mm-hmm.
And so really what it comes down to is, what are you going to do about it? What's the action? What's the practice? What's the action that you're going to take? And so when I talk about like the burden of performance, every man has a burden of performance. And just between you and me as being two men, right?
Mm-hmm.
You gave me this fantastic introduction just a little while ago because you did your homework. You understand what I've done. I've got six books under my belt. I've got bestsellers under my belt. I've been doing this for forever. I have a certain degree of respectability in this niche, right? Yeah. Therefore, you want me to come on your show, and I'm happy to do that, right? Because my burden of performance was met by doing all these books and doing everything that I've done and all the work that I've done and all the iron and all the work I will do in the future, as well, because that's I'm just going to keep going. Just want to, this is what I do. I enjoy doing what I do. But the thing is that, you have a respect for me and I have a respect for you because I know what you do and I know what you're trying to do right now with this podcast and you know what I've done in the past, right? So therefore, my burden of performance, I have a certain degree of respectability as a result of my burden of performance and living up to that and making those achievements, right?
Yeah.
Now, that's between you and me. And I'm just meeting you for the first time today. Imagine how that is, how that feels between me and Fresh right now, or me. Myron, or me and Mike Sartain, right? I know what he's. I have a great degree of respect for because men evaluate respect based on performance, based on merit. That's why when people go, "Oh, the juice isn't worth the squeeze," well, I'm going to leave the game. No, you can't because you have a burden of performance, even from other dudes.
Yeah,
not from women. Take women completely out of the equation. You still have to
survive. Yeah,
because what makes you respectable? Because there's two different ways of defining respect. There's the female way, and then there's the men's way. Men's way, as I was saying before, is just based on merit, right? That's what makes male hierarchies. But when you have women's respect is just common. It's like everybody gets some respect, you get respect. Everybody deserves respect. No, they don't. Not from what have you done that makes you respectable? And women hate it when you do that because women, their psyches are really sort of dependent on communitarianism and egalitarianism. And it's women do, when they organize societies, they do it in the round. And when men organize societies, we do it hierarchically, right?
Yeah.
So we have like the CEO, the CFO, all the way down to the janitor, right? And then you've got the admiral, the general, the lieutenants, all the way down to the private, right? So we have, and those are hierarchies of respect, right? Well, you're the president. Holy crap! You must have done something great. You must have something worthy of respect. Even if you don't, you're still supposed to respect the office, right? And so we have this merit-based respect, while women have sort of this egalitarian, sort of almost valueless way of respect. And so how do you have an equal exchange of value when my definition of respect is fundamentally different from your definition of respect? And the answer is you'll never have that. You will always, according to, if you're using Tristan Tate's definition of what a simp is, every man on planet Earth is a simp right now.
Yeah, at some degree, if you've done life with women.
Yeah. But now that's why I think we need to sort of redefine what simping is and everything, because I think there's a whole lot more to it than just that. But you will never have that exchange of value. So getting back to your point with Mother's Day and Father's Day. So when we remember what I said about how women organize society in the round and men are hierarchical, right?
Yeah.
When I was doing the research for my fourth book, which is on religion, I noticed this. Actually, I noticed this long before I started the book. But when I was doing the research for the book, I would go to like the Mother's Day sermons and the Father's Day sermons, and they're always, and even to this day, they're all the same. It's whenever it's Mother's Day, it's, oh, we're going to appreciate the mothers, and we're going to give you a rose. You know? and you get a rose, and you get a rose, and all you have to be is a mom. All you have to
Red
be,
carpet treatment.
yes, the red carpet treatment, and it's we're going to lift you up today. It's your day, Mom. We're going to take you to brunch. You know, we're going to give you mimosas. I don't know, whatever it is.
Mm-hmm.
And then on Father's Day, it's do better. You suck. Do better. Get off your ass, guys. You don't get to. It's the Charlie Kirk thing. It's like, you know, you don't get to have a day off. You don't get to play video games. You don't get to buy a PS5 until your wife's a woman of leisure. You know, until you have enough resources via your burden of performance, until you have enough surplus resources that she wants for nothing, then you can take a break. Until then, you suck. You need to do better. You need to lift yourself up the hierarchy. So for women, we live this sort of dual life in the churches anyways. We have Mother's Day, which is all in the round, and everybody deserves a rose. Everybody deserves respect. Guys, do better. That's what always the same. And I could be really vulgar about that, but just do better. Right. And because we look at like men aren't, because today in a gynocentric social order where we prioritize the female experience above all else, the only thing that makes a man respectable is he has to be the elite of the elite. He has to be the highest at the highest level of that for them. And even then it'll be like, couldn't you do a little, hey, can't you just spend more time with your wife? Like there's always something. There's always something you're lacking. There's always something you're not 100% on. There's absolutely no way to be bulletproof. And the reason for that is because, like I said before, we live in a gynocentric social order that prioritizes the female experience above the male experience. And so what's the female experience? It's everything in the round. What's the male experience? Hierarchical.
That actually explains why there's so many sexless marriages, because it's oriented around how she feels and not how he feels.
That's why.
Yeah. And I see it playing out. What's crazy is obviously me being in the mental health space as a clinician and therapist, having and realizing what happened to the actual field itself, which is dominated by 75% women or females.
I think it's more than that. I think like 85%. Oh, that's graduates in psychology.
Yeah, graduate. And then when you factor in the men that's in the field that also think the exact same way, it's brutal. Where imagine people who have this mentality where they're kind of always having a preference to lean more towards the feminine or the woman in the scenario. A lot of guys are feeling like this is why they're actually not running to therapy, let alone running to couples counseling or therapy, because they feel like it's just a jumping session where they're getting beat up on by not one but two people.
A perfected man is a woman. So like we get this from like these chicks will be on the on Access Vegas and like,
hold on, we're not gonna skip over. Did y'all hear what he just said? A perfected man is what?
Is a woman. That's according to therapy right now. According to like you probably heard this a million times. Like we get the girls on the show say this. I need a guy who's going to therapy. Like it would be so nice if guys would just go to therapy instead of going to the gym. Blah blah blah. You know, that kind of stuff. Right? And I was like, why is therapy like such a big deal for women right now? Well, the reason is because this sort of zeitgeist or this just common belief that men are broken, that there's something wrong with them. They don't emote like women. And so therefore they need therapy to fix that. They need something. Your mom didn't raise you right, or you have mommy issues, or mommy didn't love you enough, or maybe you grew up, maybe your dad was overbearing and he told you good boys don't cry, or whatever, you know. But the only reason why there's something wrong with you is because you don't think like a chick. You don't think like a woman. That's why I said a perfected man is a woman. Right. And I kept bringing this up. I said, so if I go to therapy and I start thinking like you and I start acting like you and I start like prioritizing female things, then I'm a better man as a result of like increasing myself from like just basically putting the female glasses on, and I only experience life through a female glass. And the problem is like it's unfair to guys because from a evolutionary biology perspective, we're not wired that way. We are literally, we have different hardware. We have different mechanics, and it's down to the cellular level from the time we're like multi-celled organisms.
Mm-hmm.
And I had started looking up even just like the evolutionary biology aspects of this. And honestly, I think more people will become red pill as a result of evolutionary biology instead of psychology, because when you look at things from like the cellular level and how our bodies function, like as men and women, we are way more different than we are alike. And for the longest time, everybody goes, well, we're different, but we're more alike than we are different. No. We are more different than we are alike. It's not like we're different species or anything like that. But the problem is like, to criticize men and to berate men and tell men to do better and all this other stuff, or they need to go to therapy, or they need to get in touch with their feminine side or whatever. You're effectively trying to turn them into women, because the correct way to experience the world and life in general is through a female lens. And so when a man doesn't cry at the end of Titanic, he's emotionally stunted, or men don't have emotional intelligence. It's like, no, because we don't have we're not wired. Literally, our brains are not wired. The synapses are not wired the same for communication, for prioritizing emotion before reason. Men prioritize instinct, reason, and then emotion. For women, it's instinct, emotion, and reason, right? And so what happens is something will happen in the environment, and instinctually you'll do whatever, right? And then it's cry or freak out or get in hysterics or whatever. It's, how do I feel about this? It doesn't have to be an emergency thing. It could just be like, how do I feel about this experience? And then they'll try to solve the problem. For men, it's instinct, and then, okay, how do I solve this problem?
First.
How do I solve this? Because men are innate deductive problem solvers. How do I solve this problem first? And then once I've solved the problem, or I got to get help about it, then I can process how I feel about it, right? Yeah. Men and women do not process emotions the same way. There's so much research on this, and I wish people could like I said, the red pill is not a bumper sticker. It's a college major. This is part of the college major, right? And trying to tell people this is like next to impossible, because they make more money if men are emotionally unintelligent, right? And they need therapy. There has to be a boogeyman, right? If there is no boogeyman, nobody gets paid. And what's crazy, in a sense, is emotionality. Like, they want men to emote like women.
What's crazy is the very things that I want a man that doesn't care about how I dress, or he should be secure in this, and he should allow that, and he should be in tune with this. And it's like they're turning him into the very man that they're going to lose attraction for. And it's the strangest thing that they don't see what the end goal is your gay male best friend. Yes. That's what you're eventually turning these men into when you're constantly comparing them to your girlfriends. And, when you could talk to your girlfriends about the same issue from work for the last 3-4 days in the week, like after the first time, he kind of checks out. He doesn't care about it. And it's like, you're not listening to me. And it's like, I see it where it's like, you got to make room for our differences, and not assume that we just have to be fully aligned in like everything. And it's never with what he wants. It's often what she wants to do and what she wants to experience, man. So it's crazy.
I've got this one quote. It's on my first book, and it says, women have boyfriends and girlfriends. And if you're not banging her, you're her girlfriend. And the reason why I say that, okay, so people go, well, she's just supposed to this. So people get hung up on the sex part. It's not about the sex part. It's about the communications part. Okay. So the thing is like, if you start communicating with women using their same language, the language of emotionalism, if you start telling women what they want to hear, if you identify with the female, if you become more, in touch with your emotions or sensitivity or whatever, and you're relating this to that person, that woman, her psyche, her instinctual, her lizard brain, her hind brain interprets your language and your attitude and your communication as talking to one of her girlfriends. Yeah. Not a suitor, not a guy, not a man who might be interested in having sex with her or having some relationship with her. She sees you as a girlfriend. If you're not banging her, you're her girlfriend. Because most guys will start because they think that if they identify more with women, that they're going to be able to become intimate with that woman, because we got to have familiarity, and she's got to be comfortable, we got to have rapport, and we got to go and go to the mall together and paint our nails, and it's like you're just gradually becoming more female, and they think that that's the key. because it's all like, oh God, you red pill, blue pill. A blue pill has taught men, conditioned men over really since the sexual revolution, since the late 60s, early 70s, that men need to get in touch with their emotions, and men need to be more like, they need to process emotion like a woman does. The problem is men don't have the hardware to do that. So you're asking them to do the impossible unless they want to condition themselves and gaslight themselves. And it's like my background is in behavioral psychology. If you want to condition yourself, operantly condition yourself to like, if she says this, then I'm supposed to say this because that's the feminine way to do stuff. Right? And the more you do that, the more you become female, and the more she wants for you to be more masculine. And so she either leaves you for a guy that's completely the opposite of you,
literally the opposite,
because she wants to get with a guy who is masculine, not a guy who's feminine. But you've believed your entire life, courtesy of your blue pill conditioning, that that's the key to sexual success, and you're going to reproduce. You're actually going to have babies if you do these things. And the answer is, the sad reality is that that's not how it works. That's why she cheats on you, because she wants to get with a guy that's more masculine. I have this one clip of Dr. Richard Reeves, who is like a senior fellow at the Brookings Institute. I've had him on the show a few times. He is just a dyed-in-the-wool like male feminist. And there's this one clip of him, and I think he's talking to Steve Bartlett about this, but he was saying that there was at one point he had a conversation with his wife, who's also feminist, who just basically sat him down and says, I need you to be more masculine. And I'm like, welcome to the red pill, Rich.
Literally. So question, in the age right now where single motherhood, it will just broken families, single motherhood, high divorce rates, even just the overall like decline in the view and value of marriage, especially in, I would say, the manosphere space as well. What's your take on marriage today? Is it practical? Is it essential? Is it too risky? And I think a couple guys in this chat have even asked your thoughts about being with more than one, having more than one wife, or being with more than one woman. Like, what's your take on the value of marriage and that stuff?
For the record, let the record show I only have one wife yet so far. No, that the guy who asked at the beginning is Siege. He's actually a regular on my chat. I know he followed me over here. No, that was actually sort of a running joke for me, which, and I don't know if you know Big Mo from Fresh and Fit.
Yeah. Big Mo. I've met him recently.
Loves me for this line, which is Rollo Tomassi can't be red pill because he's married, and Rollo Tomassi can't be married because he's red pill. Right. So what that means is like, there's like from the traditional conservative side of things, people really don't know what to do with me, because I'm coming up on 30 years of marriage right now. And
congrats.
Thank you. Well, it's funny is if people are too happy about that, or they're too pissed off about that. Now I have a great marriage with my wife. We've been together actually 30 years, but we've been married for 29. And we have one daughter who is 27. She's married herself as well. So whenever I'm critical of like Matt Walsh, or like Matt Walsh was like, I can't believe Pearl Davis is talking about, marriage and stuff when she's just a single woman who has never been married. I'm like, I've been married longer than you. I'll be on your show. Do you want me to come talk to you? The godfather of the manosphere, right? The guy who wrote Rational Male has been married for coming up on 30 years. And so people don't know what to do with me about that, because people think that because of what I talk about when it comes to marriage, that I have to be anti-marriage. And I'm not anti-marriage. Clearly I'm not. I've been married for almost 30 years. I think I agree with the sort of the traditional conservative understanding that marriage is the bedrock of Western civilization, right? Monogamous marriage is like the way we used to define it. But here we are in the 21st century, and we're trying to figure out how to do relationships, and we're trying to figure out how to do marriage. So there's really 4 different models of marriage right now. And the first one is what I have, right, which is closed on my end, closed on my wife's end. Every modern marriage up until recently has been about that. And there's the guys like Justin Waller, or the guys like, I think even Myron would probably identify with this. Certainly Mike Sartain does. Is it's open on their end and closed on whatever their main chick is, right? Yeah. So they can have side. Or in Mike's situation, he's got a girlfriend, but they both bring girls home, right? Because his girl goes both ways. So, and then for Justin Waller, he's so high value, and so, I'm sorry, no homo, but so good looking.
Yeah, man, like the rugged jawline.
Yes, I know. I use him as like the Uber, the Giga Chat example all the time.
Uh-huh.
He's a good family friend of mine too. Um, but so it's closed on his girl's end and open on his end. Then there's the open relationship, which is open on either side, right? Like we're having an open relationship, right? So it's
I was
open
like
on
Destiny for a bit.
Destiny is the good example.
Mhm.
And then there's actually what's the most common, which is open on her end and closed on the guy's end. Which means
Sorry.
like if a woman's like with a guy and she's supposed to be monogamous with the guy and she's still advertising her sexuality on Instagram, what's she doing? She's advertising. She's advertising herself,
Mm,
advertising her availability, right? Now
mm,
women will fight me on this because they say, well, I make a living off of this. I'm like, well, apparently the guy that you're with is not worth you changing your mind about yourself or changing, that's why women do soft launches, right? They only like the hand picture where they're just
mhm.
their feet are on the beach somewhere, or it's like, oh, do you really have? Because women know that the moment that they show a picture of their boyfriend on their Instagram, that they lose market share. I understand it's a pragmatic decision. I get it, but that's the dynamic. It's closed on his end. If that guy started going and hitting on the waitress or hitting on the bartender or whatever, we would call that cheating, right? Because he's pretending like he's available and he wants to go get after it with the bartender. Well, how is that any different than the woman who's advertising her availability? Whether it's true or not, doesn't make any difference. Be like me, like, talking to a million other chicks right now.
Yeah, you're advertising. Yeah.
Yeah. So those are the four models right now for marriage and relationships. And we're trying to figure out how this works. So I love it when I encounter like some chick who's like, I'm in an open relationship and on Access Vegas. And I'm like, how does cheating work with you? Like, well, I have to know who he's with, and there's trust, and everything like this real ambiguous sort of,
I just got to tell you before I do it.
yeah.
That's
I'm going to introduce you to whoever. Like, okay, well, is that those are the rules? And it's really just sort of like whatever the rules are that they set up for themselves, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not going to say one, like, I think what I have is real marriage, but I'm sure that Justin thinks what he has is real marriage too, right? So I do know this is that even guys like Justin still want to have the comfort and the security and the just sort of the familiarity of having a main girl. They still want to have that.
Yeah.
And let's say you're Muslim, you can have up to 4 wives if you're Muslim, but like
4.
but you still have to think about your burden of performance if you have 4 wives. think about the surplus resources you have to generate for 4 wives.
Listen, somebody ain't gonna be happy if it's 4 of y'all.
Yeah. So as far as marriage is concerned, like I am not anti-marriage. I think from the perspective that it is the foundation of Western society, I understand that. I happen to think that it works very well for me. I'm not saying that like people ask me, Rollo, how do I have a good marriage? I'm like, I can tell you how I have a good marriage. I can't tell you how you have a good marriage. Because my marriage is not one size fits all. I can tell you what I did to get to this point, and maybe you could try to emulate that, but you're not the chick that you end up with is not my wife, and you are not me. So it'd be kind of I'm not going to insult your intelligence by saying, oh, here, follow these 12 steps and you have a great marriage. Right?
Yeah.
So that's I think from a practical standpoint, from an emotional standpoint, I think that marriage is great. I want people to get married. I would love for people to get married, but the problem is I can't advocate for that under the present condition. I don't think like marriage today, as it stands, is one of the worst decisions that most risky thing that a guy can do is
in
2025. Well, in 2010, right?
Yeah.
It's an all downside prospect for that guy. And I just did a show about this, kind of criticizing Matt Walsh about this because he's like very, very pro marriage, right? And I'm not anti-marriage. I'm just anti the way we do it now. Right. So I'm anti never saw it coming. I didn't know any better, because what's the first thing that a guy like Matt Walsh is going to say if Steven Crowder gets divorced from Hillary Crowder? Because they did everything right. They met at church camp and they waited for each other. They were virgins when they got married. He very proudly wrote a very long article about that for Fox News when they got married. And look where they are right now. Right. Well, if you ask a guy, they're just going to retcon it. They're just going to say, well, he just married the wrong girl. It's like, well, that's very freaking convenient. But, but the thing is like, I want people to, if that's what you want, Like, first of all, decide that that's what you want, and then second of all, go in with both eyes open.
Yeah.
It's like Jim Sexton, the guy who's or James Sexton, the divorce attorney, is like, he's very much pro marriage, and not because he makes a lot of money off of divorce, but because he still thinks that as an institution, marriage is fantastic, but as a contract, as a business proposal, it's like no guy is going to sign on for something like that. And you want to know why marriage rates are at the lowest in recorded history. It's 6.1 per 1,000 people in the United States right now, and it's lower in other countries. And you want to know why the fertility rate is below replacement level. And we have fundamentally changed society since the advent of hormonal birth control and the sexual revolution. So much so that's where you're asking me a question about where is we going with marriage right now. You would never ask that from my grandfather, my great grandfather. That wouldn't even be an issue, right? But because people want to know, like, what killed marriage. It's not feminism didn't kill marriage. Technology killed marriage. Like technology with the pill control, which led to this cascade of effects to put where we are right now. As an institution, I think marriage is fantastic. If I could, I would love to write a book and say, here's how you have an awesome, fantastic marriage, and do this and do this. And I simply can't in good faith, like, produce that book. It's certainly not now. So things are going to there needs to be marriage reform. There needs to be some sort of marriage reform on a political level for sure, but also from a societal level. And there's just no will to do that right now. So until that day arrives, I can only say, again, as I said before, I give you the data. And when I give people the data and I say, here's the data, here's the statistics on divorce, here's the statistics on marriage, here's the statistics of, like, sexist marriages. Here's, like, because a lot of people, like Matt Walsh, will say, like, well, these guys are afraid to get married because they're worried about losing half of their stuff, but they don't even have that much stuff. And I'm like, that's not what the point is. The point is not losing half their stuff. It's getting into a relationship with a woman, and suddenly she turns off the sex spigot, or suddenly it becomes the most miserable decision he made. It's not about losing half the stuff. It's about living a lifestyle that he believed was going to be one way and became something else afterwards. It's not about fear of losing half your shit. It's about a concern, a logical, pragmatic concern. Like, I don't want to get involved with a person like this, or I don't want to get involved in a contract like this, because it's an all downside contract for me. Right? We were just talking about, like, reciprocation and simping and all that other stuff like that. That's the contract. You do these things. You're the man. You're supposed to do these things. And if you can't do those, don't enter into that contract. You know what guys are doing? I'm not entering into the contract.
Yeah, like they like, this is the one thing where it's like, I don't fault men who are going quote unquote black pill and completely disengaging from everything. I have my concerns about that.
I understand, yeah.
But I understand the lens of all the risks that you're talking about. Of, it doesn't make sense if all this is hinged on one party wanting to just leave. They just are not happy anymore. And how much, like, Kentucky recently did the law with the 50-50 custody over the last few years. And I envision that may be, as more and more ladies are realizing politically the things that they've been voting for are literally leading towards the current outcomes that they have. I think as maybe more and more states maybe try what Kentucky's doing, I wouldn't be surprised that more men would be a little bit more open to the possibility of, like, I think Florida had floated out alimony, either reduction or something like that. That 10 years ago, I don't even think that was being talked about. I mean, in our circles, in the manosphere, red pill space, this was being talked about, but it wasn't ever being taken seriously. And now I'm starting to wonder, with, like, Gen Z, for the split between Gen Z and boys and girls, and young men and women that are Gen Z, and how much they're splitting politically. I could see a scenario where, honestly, like, this stuff may legitimately be what candidates have to start to run on to expect votes from a lot of men.
Yeah, I've pointed that out, actually, this election, and actually all elections since Trump versus Hillary. All politics are gender politics from here on out, and they know this. They've known this, like, from the jump for the last election. That's why, like, myself and a bunch of other creators, we were put on a DHS watch list for this, for an NGO watch list where they were redirecting our traffic
Mm.
because they knew they weren't going to get the male vote. They knew damn well it was not going to happen for them. I know recently it was it Kamala Harris in her book was citing, actually mentioned by name, Andrew Tate and Myron Gaines. Like, that's why I lost the election. I mean, that's a little bit of a stretch, but okay. But the thing is it's evidence of sort of this mentality that they knew it was coming. And you'll notice that the first thing anybody, like when they were trying to figure out how did this happen, how could anybody ever possibly vote for Trump? The first thing they said is it's the manosphere. I heard Dana Bash on November 6th, Dana Bash from CNN say, well, you know, the word of I use this as an intro to one of my shows is the word of the day or the word of the year is manosphere, and I guess we're all in the manosphere now. I'm like, this is a mainstream CNN anchor mentioning the manosphere. They've known about this. They've known about this for a very long time, and in the wake of it, they had all these conversations about like, how do we lose the male vote, and how do we like now it's like, how do we get young male voters in these demographics and, you know, millennials or Gen Z or whatever, how do we get them back to the Democrat Party? And it's like, you guys knew you weren't going to get them in the first place. That's why they actively tried to suppress that vote on the last election.
Well, that and open up the borders, but that, you know.
Yeah, well, that too. I mean, there are other issues as well, but like I meant like when it comes to like getting the young male voters, they weren't trying to court young male voters. They were trying to say, stay away. It's not worth it. The red pill. Like if you notice, if you look at guys like Destiny, if you look at the guys who were all of his girlfriends too, who are associated with him, there's a whole sort of collective of these guys. They're Twitch streamers mainly until they get banned, but they're all part of this collective that literally works for Progressive Victory, which is a Democratic PAC, Political Action Committee. And to the point where they're essentially buying their influence. They're buying their words. They're putting words in there. Say these things. You want to know why Destiny gets to go on Pierce Morgan and Lex Friedman and all these others? It's because he's bankrolled by the DNC. And why is he bankrolled by the DNC? To take down guys in the manosphere. You'll notice the only place he ever really got any real traction, Fresh and Fit, right after Sneeko introduces them to it, right? And so now we look at Destiny as sort of like this just uber villain right now, but the reason why he hasn't gone away is because he's useful still, and he's useful at they think he's going to be useful at suppressing the male vote. So they're not trying to get male voters, they're trying to convince you not to go to the polls, which didn't work, which hasn't worked, which is why Kamala Harris was frustrated with Myron from Fresh and Fit.
You know, she could have went on all these podcasts, by the way. It was one of the strangest one of the most like strangest strategies I've seen from a political candidate is like pander and market to the group that you already were going to get votes from, and completely ignore the group that you absolutely needed votes from. But then insult the black men that you definitely needed votes from. Like they checked off every single box of like what not to do, and it's very clear, man, that they just, even though they're aware of the manosphere, it's like I think it's the prism and the lens that they're looking at it through. They can't even see how they're contributing to why more and more men are going to it.
Yeah,
they just see it as like, if we shame it, if we attack it, if we attack the men, if we say they're all misogynist, that'll work. And I'm like, if anything, obviously with the election and everything, it's just doing the opposite.
Yeah, I don't know who's going to run on the conservative Republican ticket for 2028, but get me to be your campaign manager. get me to at least be an advisor for you.
It's so bizarre to see how horrible they are. I had about two more questions because I don't want to keep you too long, man. Why is it that now this stuff is kind of, even what you're saying is coming out to the mainstream, this stuff has been, Kevin Samuels helped with it to a degree, Tate helped with it, you did, many others have helped over time. This become more and more outside of like the underground. This is really becoming a normal talking point now. But why are so many women still hating and blaming red pill content for why things aren't working with the men in their lives?
Because it gives away the game, because it gives away the plot. One of the things I wrote about in my second book, which is preventive medicine, It's based on a timeline. And I wrote the second book because I had so many guys from the first book saying, Roll, I really wish I would have had this before I got divorced, or before I got married, before I had kids, before I did this, or before I went to this college because I wanted to be with my girlfriend and I changed my major, or I took a job in another place, whatever. They were regretting like life decisions as a result of like making romantic, sort of influences guide their life decisions, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so I'm like, okay, maybe guys need a book to sort of help them sort of head them off at the pass. Like this is what you can expect from women at certain ages, like little degrees of, of maturity, phases of maturity. Right. So I usually start around like 15 to 50. Now people go, well, why did you say 15? I'm like, well, because that's usually the time in high school is usually a time when other high school guys start noticing girls, right? So it's like, am I saying go after 15-year-old girls? No, I am not. But I would be stupid not to include that for guys who are in high school, right? So, but between the ages of like 18 and 28, that's what we call, well, what I call the party years, but everybody calls the hoe phase, right? And then there's the epiphany phase, which is, 29 to 31, where women want to get right with God and they want to get right. But, the lights are coming on at the club and I got to find somebody to go home with. And, I'm not getting any younger and my mom wants grandkids. And so then now we're going to get serious, right? And then, so there's all these various phases that I go through. And the easiest way I can illustrate the reason why women hate the red pill so much is because of that timeline, more or less, or what is revealed as a result of red pill awareness. So when I tell people about, like, say, the epiphany phase, when women have gone through sort of their hoe phase and now they want to settle down, they're usually looking for a guy who's not the kind of guy that they used to get with back in college. They're looking for a guy who's got benefits. They're looking for a guy who's made, and suddenly all these things that weren't so important to her before now suddenly become important because those are cues of value that will help her in the long term for long-term security. Women, by and large, are more interested in long-term security than anything else. I know that sounds weird when you're dealing with women between the ages of 18 and 28, because they're not really as concerned about long-term security during that phase. But that's a 10-year window and what, a 80, 90-year life? And for the rest of their lives, they're looking for some kind of security, emotional security, financial security, familial security, whatever it happens to be.
Mm-hmm.
And so they've got 10 years to lock that down and before they, to find a guy who's going to be the provider of protection, provisioning, and parental investment, long-term security aspects.
18 to 28.
If I bring that up and I say, I've just told that to you right now, right? I just explained it. I've explained this a million times, right?
Mm-hmm.
The reason why women hate me is because I just told you that, and everybody who's in the chat and everybody who's going to watch this right now, because I'm giving away the game. And so what helps women is that men remain ignorant. They're the best thing a woman can find is she hits 30 years old. She finds a guy who's taking care of himself, looks pretty good. He's about a couple years older, and he's on his way to being partner in the law firm, or he's just finishing up his residency. He's going to be a surgeon, right? Or he's got, some sort of entrepreneur. He's got some sort of prospects that are coming up. Really, like, he's going to develop into something. He has potential to be a winner, right? But he's still blue pill and he's still stupid and he still has romantic. He's a hopeless romantic, right? And he doesn't know how the game is played. That is the perfect mark for a woman who is 29 to 31 years old, because now she's gone through her,
her fun phase
discovery, in 18 to 28. And now here's Rollo Tomassi saying, don't be stupid. Don't, like, I'm not telling you don't get with the girl. I'm saying just go in with both eyes open. It's the same thing I was telling you about marriage. It's like, just be an informed buyer, just, read the contract before you sign your name on the contract. And even just that is just too much for women. And that's why I get a lot of hate for it. Or if I bring up something, I remember one time I was on Pat Campbell's show and I said something like, sex is the glue that holds a relationship together. And all the women in the studio, because it was a radio station, all the women are like, I'm like, he's kind of right. It's that moment where they go, he's kind of right. That's the part that they hate, right?
Uh-huh.
I'll just finish with this. I had this going joke, because when I wrote the first book, a guy hit me up and told me that his girlfriend had found that he was reading the book, right? she's like, the rational male, give me that. I'll be the judge of this, and she goes off and reads it for like 2 or 3 days and comes back and she throws that out and she says, everything in that book is true and you shouldn't know any of it. But that's why women get pissed off, because you shouldn't know any. I know it's funny, it's humorous, right? But you shouldn't know any of this. And
the red pill is the mirror that shows the less than favorable things about why women will or won't get with certain men.
Unflattering truths. You're not allowed to say. You could say unflattering truths about men all day. What's fun? What's funny is if I say if I just presented in as moderate, as monotoned, as measured as I possibly can, and I mentioned some unflattering fact about female nature, I will guarantee you the very first response somebody will say, "Well, men do that too." And they do it worse. They'll be
whataboutism
from another guy, not from a woman. It comes from another guy who's like hoping that any girl in earshot will say, well, I identify, I'm defending women, right? How dare you, insult women with something unflatteringly true? I'm like, it doesn't make it any less true. But why did you feel like you had to say that? That's because if I was to say something very unflattering about men's nature, which there's quite a few things.
Very normal things.
No woman steps up and goes, well, that's not always true because women do this. It never happens. But when it's the opposite way around, it's because it's what's called the women are wonderful effect. It's actually a psychological, sociological effect that if there is any perceived slight against women, that it is women's duty collectively and like men's duty to step up and defend that woman, right? And it's how we're hardwired. It's an evolutionary like feature of our psyches. But when it comes to something that's unflattering, if I say that, like I said before, like the red pills like exists in that kind of like between area right there, because all we do is like in its purest form, it's just about the data. It's just about here's the statistic. But the problem is you can't tell people facts without telling them how to feel about it.
Gotcha.
If you don't, they will hate you for it, or else they will infer meaning from it. They will either say, you're telling me this because you want me to believe X, Y, and Z, right? And if X, Y, and Z is something they align with, they'll go, yeah, one of us, And if it's not, then you're the enemy.
And now you hate the whole gender.
Always binary. Yeah, you hate the whole gender, right? And it's like, no, I just quoted some stats. Can you just tell me what you think about these things? You can't do that. You have to tell them how, especially in the social media age, are you a good guy or a bad guy? Like there has to be something that gives them feels. That's why outrage works so well on social media, because it's just coming down to, is this guy part of my tribe or is he part of the enemy army?
Yep.
And that's really what it comes down to. I just provide facts, and sometimes those facts are just very inconvenient to women's life plans.
Listen, man, you've covered so many things. I could do this a whole nother hour, but I absolutely want you to have a normal life, unlike many, because I know you do these 2-3 hours plus podcasts. So how about this, man? One, shout out to Dr. Taylor Burrows. She was one of my first. And I actually would love to see you two kind of have
been a while
together.
Talked to her in a while, but
yeah. And I did see that you
shared dislike of Sadia Khan.
Fraud. So it's and I'm glad that being able to meet with people who just know more about this space, more about psychology, it's really cool to have these conversations, because a lot of times when this is the equivalent of, and I realized this, and when I watch you, when you talk on your panels, when you're having certain conversations with folks, what I've learned and observed is like you've read so much. And I'm getting to a spot where I feel like I'm starting to read and research and look into things so much that by the time you try to have a conversation, this is the equivalent of like you've read the book, you've written the book, you've researched it thoroughly. Someone read the table of contents and wants to debate you.
Yeah.
That's often what it ends up. There's such a gap between why they feel how they feel and why they're reacting the way that they are. Like they're so beyond to the point of actually listening to receive information. They're just going off of like their script, their blue pill script, man. So it's awesome, man, to see.
My first book has been around since 2013, so it's 12 years now, and like I love it when people like want to debate me on something. Like I didn't consider something. I'm like, you've read the book, right? No. Well, you've had 12 years to read it. I don't know what to tell you. But no, I get that all. It's what I call confident ignorance. Is you got these guys who want to debate you on something, right? Or sometimes it's not even a debate. Like I don't even think there's like modern debate is not debate. It's not classic debate. Classic debate is really about like trying to determine whether something is true or it's false. Today, debate is: are you an asshole or are you not? Right? Are you a liar or are you on my team or are you not on my team? That's really what it comes down to. I'm gonna destroy. It's the politics of personal destruction rather than I've got this premise right here. I'm going to say, here's what I've found about this. This is what I think this is why I think it's true or it's false, right? I'll present it to you. You go, okay, well, I have this. That's sort of my counter arguments to that. And we have this back and forth. And it's not about you're an asshole and I'm an asshole. We're just trying to figure out if this fact or not fact is true. Right? That's what formal debate has been since, Hellenic Greece, right? But now it's not about that anymore because that doesn't get clicks. What gets clicks is he was destroyed.
Yep.
It's like, and the titles you put it in all caps on a Twitter or on a YouTube video, and it's you put rage quit, you put heated debate, you put destroyed, like
owned.
Owned, instantly regrets it. That's all you have to do. Put that in a title and you're going to get views for it. But no, I was going to say is like a lot of people will, they'll presume that I mean something that I don't, right? They'll presume because only a guy who's on the opposite team would say something like that. And then I'm like, people wonder if if I align with somebody like say Andrew Wilson or something like that, we probably agree on 90% of stuff, but it's that 10% that they'll go, he was destroyed. That's all they want. Or like if I'm talking to Marquette, right, from same thing, man. Like he and I are like really tight. We play on that, but it's something because they just don't have the background. It's not that they're stupid. It's just that they're ignorant. And I don't mean that in a bad way. I know it has a bad connotation, right? But there's a difference between stupidity and ignorance. Stupidity means you just lack the brain. You don't have the mechanics to understand trigonometry, whatever it is, right? Ignorance is there's something here that you could educate yourself on and you would no longer be ignorant. You don't lack the tools. You're not stupid. There's lots of things I'm ignorant on. If I'm ignorant on something, I don't pretend like I know what I'm talking about. There's a lot of big name influencers that do that. They feel like if somebody asks them a question about like how to repair a 1968 VW engine, that they're like, oh yeah, then first you do this and you do that, like just pull whatever out of their ass because they feel like they have to be knowledgeable about everything. If I don't know something, I'm going to go, I don't know that, but come back next week and will know something about that, right?
Yeah,
because I'm smart and I'm can educate myself and I can go and do those things. But like, I think there's this sort of presumption that if you're an influencer, you know it all, and I'm like, no, you can be ignorant about stuff and educate yourself about things too, and there's nothing wrong with that. But no, it's just when they make those presumptions about like what they think the inferences, I guess, what they think that you meant about something. And it just like, God, I love it when they ask me to like, give me the 5-minute version of this. I can't. I'm always worried about like, I'm always concerned about making things comprehensive and concise, right? Like there's always that battle between the two. And so I can explain like alpha widows, or I can explain the war brides dynamic or something like that. And I can give you like the bite-sized sort of, snack pack version of it. Right. And the first thing anybody goes, I got you. You didn't think of this. And I'm like, well, I did. It's just in the longer version that you didn't want me to give you. I have already considered all of this stuff, but they think you don't know what you're talking about because they asked you for like the Cliff Notes version of it. Whereas if I had just given you the comprehensive version of that story, then all of this could be avoided. So actually we're saving time by me giving you the longer version, because now we don't have to go through this back and forth, which is going to take longer for me to explain to you than if I'd have just given you the long version.
That makes sense to me. That and I'm realizing that now. And especially when I'm trying to get in the habit of bringing different guests on like you, who can really, really flesh out and delve into a lot of these hot topic things and people who are questioning and have a lot of concerns about it. Listen, man, number one, genuinely honored that you came on tonight.
Anytime.
So thank you genuinely for doing this. I hope all of you guys that watched this really enjoyed this. Feel free, if you haven't, to make sure that you follow Rollo on all of his different platforms that he's going to announce. But before we talk about where people can kind of find you to support you, any current projects, books, anything that you want the audience to know?
Sure. I've got a brand new book. It's called Reignite. I've got the printers, the galley printer. Yeah, there you go, right there. It's a top new release in really all of my categories right now. I'm just working my way up to a bestseller with this one, but this is my 6th book right now, and it coincides with my program, which is also called Reignite. And really, what I focus on in my men's group and my book is sort of building or rebuilding your life. Okay. And that's, I wanted to give guys sort of actionable information so they can take this stuff. Cause a lot of people think that like the red pill is very like long on rhetoric and long on theory and short on like utility, right? Or so that's what I tried to counter in this. I usually don't do prescriptions, but I'm not above pointing people in the right direction. So, so what this is it links what has previously been separate concepts. Like we talked about burden of performance today. Like pretty much everything I talked about burden performance is in this book right now. And then how does that interact with your confidence? How does that interact with and how does frame a net result of that? Or if we talk about mindset, or we talk about, like, people always have questions about what I mean when I talk about mental point of origin. I get into very detailed descriptions on that. So there's that frame. I get into talking about how to unsedate yourself, like, because that's, I see as one of the biggest problems that most, like certainly Gen Z has right now, is that we are sedated by so many different things that like just basically prevents us from any kind of growth whatsoever. So I delve into that quite a bit. But you have to remember that all of the concepts that are in this book are interconnected. So they're not just separate topics. The entire book is sort of culminates in one sort of holistic version of the red pill, meaning like it's like one, like your burden of performance is related to your respectability, as I was saying before, and then maybe your mindset is maybe that's a sedation. Sometimes mindset can be a sedation. If you have like sort of this losing mindset, that's what's preventing. It's not chemical, it's not drugs, it's not porn, it's just the way you think, right?
Yeah.
So like if I'm dealing with some sort of black pill doomer incel nihilist, it's like, well, that's because this is, and where did you pick this up? What's the epistemology of your coming to this belief, right? That has to do with mental point of origin. Why are you not putting yourself as the first thing that comes to your mind when you are making decisions? Well, that comes from your blue pill conditioning from the time you're 5 years old. So there's all of this interconnectivity that I was seeing when I was reconsidering some of these concepts. And then I put it all together in what I thought were the most necessary elements of rebuilding your life. I originally started the Reignite program for guys who are like between 45 and 65, because that's the prime demographic for male self-deletion. And usually it's after divorce, because men are 9 times more likely to take their own lives after divorce than women are. And we're already 4.5, 5 times as likely just in general. So, so that was, when I look at male self-deletion, it's usually a pragmatic decision. It's like they have to either rebuild themselves or they delete themselves. And tragically, too many guys delete themselves. And you don't. So do you have to be 45 to be in the group? No, you can be building your life and you're just not getting out of life what you would like to have out of it, whether that's with your romantic situations or like money, muscles, and game, right? Health, wealth, and relationships. The book covers all of that. My programs cover all of that. And as I said before, if I don't know something about it, I'll get an expert who does, and they'll be speaking at the next thing. If people say, hey, I really need help with my finances. Okay, great. I need I'll get Jason Hartman, right? I'll get Aaron Clary. I'll get people want to talk about fitness. Okay, I know so many people in the fitness sphere. You want to talk about crypto? I got 2 of the best guys in crypto are my business partners at Red One Studios. It's I sort of tap into my network of guys, so it's not just me. It's like everybody that I know who wants to be a part of this, who wants to help out with this, and they all do, because they're all in it for the same reason that I'm in it, right?
Yeah.
And so that's why I started this. And so the book itself is more of like a primer for the the men's group. It's not a course. It's not a teachable thing. It's an individualized sort of, how do we unfuck your life? How
Mm-hmm.
how do you rebuild your life instead of deleting yourself? Or if if you've been zeroed out in a divorce, how are we going to help you out after that? We're a tribe of guys. I don't want you to put the noose on your neck. I want you to have a base of, support right here. And
Mm-hmm.
this is how we're going to do this. And we do fun shit too, right? We
Mm-hmm.
go, like, we're doing the next thing in Vegas, but we do stuff in Miami. We went deep sea fishing. We went,
I'm gonna have to get my men's group soon in the next 6 months to kind of connect with y'all. So when y'all plan
that'd be
these retreats,
I will
yeah.
say that's the other thing, is like, it's a gathering of the tribes too. It's like, I don't see
Mm.
any difference between what I'm doing and like what Mike from MOA is doing. I just do it with a different demographic. I just do it with guys who have a different set of needs, right? And
Mhm.
I think there's more than enough room in the manosphere to sort of address all that stuff. So when we talk about like, oh, the manosphere just complains, like, no, I'm doing something, actually doing something. Men like Mike from Men of Action, it's called Men of Action. We're actually doing something with these guys. So it's not just about writing books. It's not just about doing podcasts. It's about like each one tell one. And so, yeah, I mean, I would love to do that, but I'm of the opinion that guys communicate better. Like, you remember talking about therapy
Yep.
earlier? Guys,
Yep.
therapy, my therapy is the squat rack. My therapy is the gun range. My therapy is driving really fast cars up the track out here, or whatever it is, right? It's like,
Mhm.
what are your common interests? You like playing golf? Great. I live in a golf community. Let's go to the driving range. Let's go to Top Golf. Right? The next thing we're going to do is going to go take quads out into the desert.
Oh,
You want to help? You
nice.
want me to help you with your Instagram and setting up curating the images on your Instagram? No problem. Got that done.
Mhm.
Got that down.
Mhm.
Do you need help interacting with women, like one-on-one? Great. We bring women into our groups, and they have conversation. They're there because they understand what's going on, but these guys, they don't even know what to do with themselves. They're stranger in a strange land. They don't know how
Yeah.
to talk to women. And so you're in that controlled sort of environment where you're having this back and forth with women. And sometimes we say, okay, be cold to him. Okay, be warm to him. Like, we'll mix it up so guys will be able to think on the fly when they're
Mhm.
actually out there in the clubs, or they're out in back home, wherever they are, and they can take those skills. We're trying to teach social skills as well as physical skills, as well as monetary skills. Like I said, health, wealth, and relationships. And again, all of that comes back to the book. And so, like I said, the book is a primer for that, but it's a standalone too. You don't have to be in the group to actually benefit from the book. Um, but so that's my main focus right now. I have some other irons in the fire as well, but clearly I'm still doing my podcast. I'm still
Mhm.
very, very active in Access Vegas right now. And I've got a lot of things that I'm interested in that I do, but my main thing right now is writing and, promoting the book now, but like also doing my groups. So it's me.
One man, shout out to you for everything you've been doing and taking this beyond just the talking about it to actually wanting to work with men. I was one of those guys that was obviously there and wanted to give up after my last relationship. I was standing on the bridge, like literally, like, and to go from that to where I'm at now, and I see how vital and important it is. And this is me talking as a therapist. Now I really, really understand how needed it is for more men to jump into this space.
Mhm.
Because just sticking on the therapy sidelines, most men would never know I existed.
Mhm.
And just by entering into this arena, obviously everybody's like, is going to have their opinions of whether they like you or hate you. But it's the guys like you that set the tone and created the infrastructure of what we can kind of build upon, man. So, hey, man, I appreciate you
Sure.
genuinely for everything. And best believe it's not just the guys that probably texted, DM'd, emailed you and said, listen, you changed my life. You
Mhm.
saved my life. It's the countless guys that you'll never know,
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, I know.
that you'll never know.
That's
So
good.
why don't you tell everybody where they can find you, websites, social media, podcasts, like all the sites where how can they find you?
Well, all of my books are available on Amazon.com. So you can go there, just type in The Rational Male, and you'll find all 6 of the books, including the new one. Yes, and thank you very much for that. Yeah, it is available in hardback right now. So it's actually the first book I've done that's been available in hardback. So I'm planning on putting hardback versions out of all of my books now, because I realized how easy it was. So Amazon makes it real easy now. They used to, like, Amazon used to be that you couldn't do a hardback, but now they've had it out for quite some time.
By
So
the way, I gotta make sure I like hire you as like my coach or something to just make sure I write this damn book that everybody's been telling me to write about. Cause I'm like, you go on number 6, and I'm like, I have not written a table of contents.
yeah,
So,
Clary's
I'm
got
like,
Eric Clary's got probably like 12 books out right now.
oh,
That's all he
man.
does. So and then anyway, I do all the layout, I do the writing, I do the covers and everything else for my
Holy
book.
crap, for real? You
I'm
did
a
this cover?
in another life, actually, I was art director and a graphic designer, so that's what I
Wow.
do. And so you'll find me on Amazon. If you want to connect with me, I'm on Instagram. I am rational_male on Instagram. Just put in rational male, you'll find me. And then on Twitter, Twitter, Twix, whatever. I am Rollo Tomassi at rational male at rational male. So I'm not hard to find. I'm probably the most accessible guy in this niche.
Yeah.
But I do that, and then also I have my show, which is the Rational Male, on Sundays at 1 p.m. Pacific, 4 p.m. Eastern. That's every Sunday. I've been doing that since 2018. It's almost 7 years.
Wow.
And then and so I do that, and then on Access, I do Access Vegas here in Las Vegas with my partner Mike Sartain. We do a lot of other stuff too, by the way. People think that it's just like fun and games with, and it is a lot of fun and games with Access Vegas. But we have a panel show. We don't kick girls off. Most of these girls are friends of ours. And we collect the most hottest chicks that we can possibly find in Vegas around a table. We strive for a constructive, substantive conversation. It's not like whatever podcast. We're not there to kick the girls off. We're there to have a conversation, and I think it works. I think we've kind of finally found our voice here. A lot of people want us to do that. They're looking for, like, it's a NASCAR race. They want to crash. They don't care who wins. So that's Access Vegas. We do that every other Wednesday. And we're trying to get it to the point where we can do it every week, but because we just moved into a new studio. But right now it's just every other Wednesday. And then Mike and I also do a lot of charity events too. So we do Babes in Toyland. We've got the Teddy Ball coming up because Christmas, and then we do Toys for Tots. And Mike's also the MC for a lot of things like Swimsuit USA, and so we got, like I said, we have a lot of irons in the fire. Just
Listen,
collectively.
my wife, if y'all have some tickets for some of this stuff, my wife might let me go. She may.
Sure. You should bring. I brought my wife.
She would love to come out to Vegas. Yeah.
Come on out.
Okay.
I was gonna say, it's funny that I'm glad you mentioned that, because I think a lot of people think that like to read my books or to be in the group, you got to be like single or you got to be divorced or something like that. Not at all. We have guys that are married in the group as well, and they're just trying to improve themselves. They're just trying to build. Like I said, like I got guys that want to like turn the sex spigot back on in their marriages and stuff. So we got people that, if not me, certainly somebody else who can help you with those kinds of things. And so it's a network of guys really just sort of coming together, and real guys helping guys and doing things, right? So it's when men communicate, we communicate when we're wrenching on a car or we're trying to solve a problem, or we have a collective project to work on, and that's I think is a much better form of male therapy than female forms of therapy. It's guys. So that's why I try to, it's not just about a classroom setting or a mastermind or whatever, funnel marketing speak that, is popular right now. It's like, I want to have fun. I want to go deep sea fishing. I want to go to the driving range. I want to go do things, but at the driving range is where you have those good conversations, and that's where the work gets done. And you don't even realize it's work because you're just having fun and doing stuff both collectively enjoy together. So why not have a good time at it at the same time? So.
Listen, man. Again, it was a genuine honor. I appreciate you doing this for a young whippersnapper like myself, coming into this space. And I wish you the best of luck, man, as you continue to expand and build on this ecosystem that's really changed the lives of, at this point, probably millions, legitimately. So listen, y'all, thanks for everything. Rollo, we're going to let you go.
Thanks, man.
All right, man. Enjoy your evening for sure, bro.
Much appreciated.
All righty. So last but not least, y'all, I'm going to just kind of skim through and make sure I didn't miss any of the super chats. If you have not done a super chat and clicked on the $, feel free to, donate $2, $3, whatever you can afford. We'll greatly appreciate it towards the channel. It helps with building and getting us the supplies and equipment and stuff that we need. Obviously, if you're a member, you obviously don't have to do that. But if you do it out of goodness of your heart, would definitely appreciate it. If you have not liked this stream or liked this video after all this time, please do so before you log out, and send it to your different people, men, women. And I hope that this actually humanizes the manosphere. So this was apparently the boogeyman that's spewing so much hate. And what you found out was that he's married. That although he has some concerns about how what marriage has turned into, he wants guys to go into it wide open. He made it known that a lot of the things he's recommending is just people being much more aware of how society treats you, how men and women view each other. And I align with a lot of this stuff, man. And it's not just because I'm brainwashed, it's because I genuinely think, like, if you study, you look at evolutionary psychology, if you study, read, and look at a lot of this stuff more, the red pill is onto something. And I, just like him, the best thing you could do is let people know the pros and cons of their different options, and then give them the freedom of choice of, now their eyes are open and they're now making a educated decision, and they live with the consequences. And I think that's ultimately what the red pill is about, versus saying, sleep with 30 women or sleep with 50 women or never do this or never do that. I think it's more so like, does it, for what you want in life and what you want to experience, does it make sense? And if it does, what changes do you need to make to make it happen? That's what I think the red pill really is about, honestly. Jacob, hey man, absolutely. If you can, that we would greatly appreciate it for sure. And by the way, remember what I said to all you guys from the last couple shows I've done? You guys are free to clip this stuff. You can download it, you can clip it up, you can share it on Instagram, YouTube, TikTok, you name it, all X and all the other platforms. Just make sure that you tag myself and the Rational Male or Rollo as well. If you do, if it's on Instagram, you can add us as a collaborator. That would be dope. And just appreciate y'all for this 27,000 plus subscribers, the members, everybody that's in this thing. New members, you're going to be getting your own private members only content starting in early November. And by the way, y'all, the episode I got coming up is original content. It's going to be later this week, and it is going to be the truth about Barack Obama. I have to decide yet if Master Communicator is going to also come out this week or the beginning of next week. I think it's just more so if I have the time to kind of record both. But stay tuned, because this Obama episode, if you thought the Charlie Kirk episode was volatile, if you thought some of the different episodes I've had have been very interesting, I think that I would say don't go on with any particular assumptions of how the direction you think I'm going to go in when I speak on Obama. Just stay tuned for that, and I'll be announcing that pretty soon. And I have another special guest coming at the beginning of next week as well, and I'll be announcing that later this week as well. So thank you, Jacob, for the $199. Cauliflower, thank you for the $4.99 iconic display this evening. You did that. Shout out to you. Thank you. Appreciate that. Love Gun. Roosh, and Rosie, thank you for that. It's the fact that I even got him on the show is just crazy. So thank y'all for checking in. If you haven't subscribed to this channel, this is what I'm hoping to do. If y'all know more people like Rollo and all the people who I've been kind of connecting with, feel free to kind of send them my way. My email is on my page. It's very easy to find me. And I want to just bring people with very interesting perspective, viewpoints, mindsets, and present them to you all. And if you're rocking with what they got to say and what they got to share, hey, make sure you subscribe to their stuff, follow them, and support them the way you guys have supported me. I don't take this for granted, and I think that there's room for a lot of us to actually work together. Leon, Henny King, Destiny. Yeah, I remember the Destiny. Thank you for the $2. Philip, thank you for the $2 as well. Keep it up, Jeff. Andre, thank you for the $2. I'm pro-marriage, very, very anti-marriage licenses. Oh, pro-marriage, but very anti-marriage licenses. You know what? That's a new way, I think, that people can kind of delineate people who just flat out hate the whole institution versus those that see the importance of the institution but understands the governmental interventions that can really negatively affect marriages being able to last. So Shout out to Andre for bringing that up. Thank you, Anastasia from New York. Neo, the musician, has a viral clip today with Fat Joe talking about his four wives and community as opposed to all being vain. Yeah, I've seen the videos. I don't know what I don't know what I'm. Sometimes I wonder if some of the men that walk around and parade all the different women, if this is really about them being as much enthralled and loving and wanting these two women as it's much about just the status component of what that is supposed to reflect to everybody else. Um, I'm not saying it specifically about Neo, but just in general, I'm always cautious when I see guys with more than two women in America. It's one of those like, what are we compensating for something? What's I always wonder about stuff like that. So just kind of keep that in mind for those who believe themselves to have made it in life where they're at a level where they can have two, three different women in their arms. What's the end goal with it? I'm not shooting it down. It's just more so like, is it just an ego thing? Is Just be mindful like what it is that you're putting yourself into, because the Shannon Sharp examples of like you know, the more women that you're entertaining, the more risk that you may actually have to recognize that you're kind of encountering. And I think I read the rest of these. I think so. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Thank you, T, for the 5. They want us to visit. And thank you, Moneymakers, as well, for yours as well. Yes, I've read the ones before that. So listen, y'all. Thank you all. Thank you all for joining. I am tired. I want to go eat. So I hope that this was helpful. I hope that this was meaningful. I'm sure y'all going to let me know more guests that you want me to link with. And if you even know the guests, send them my way. I want them on. But listen, y'all, get your rest, get relax. And for you men, join a men's group. As y'all saw, we've posted some of mine's. We posted my group. We posted others. We like Rollo, my own, Mike Sartain, like we have men's groups now. So the days of like having to live in isolation is kind of over. You could join different tiers of men's groups based off of what you can afford and just get started with working with men who are working on themselves. And don't be shocked that you're going to just have a whole different approach and mindset to life. So yeah, I hope that this was helpful. All my links are in the chat. My links are in the channel bio. We got the store for these type of products. I think somebody had asked about where to find a hat. If you haven't picked up the hat yet, make sure you do. If you haven't got one of these, make sure you get ready for in time for the holidays. So maybe you can kind of give this to your brother, and then we have one for women, one for men, everybody. So listen, y'all, I'm tired. I'm hungry. If you haven't donated, make sure you do and support the cause. And if you're not a subscriber, you haven't liked this, make sure you do. And listen, y'all, have a good night. And like I said, stay tuned. Original episode content coming out soon relating to Obama, as well as the news of the next major guest that I'll be bringing on the platform. So stay tuned for both of those. Have a good night, y'all. And Casa now. Peace.